So there we go. All right. I'm going to put my own LinkedIn profile link into the chat box right now. It's always good to lead by example, and I'm going to do that right now. So literally, that's all you would have to do if this is what you wanted to try to do. Very straightforward. All right. All right, Maria's here. Hello, everybody who's just arriving. I'm Lana, I am your host. I'm going to wait maybe another minute or so before I begin. And guys, if you're not talking, please mute your mics. Thank you. There will be a replay available from this presentation, and I will upload it to my unlisted YouTube channel, which is what I do with all the master classes. And that link isn't really searchable. It's just going to be for you. And I will email it to everybody who is, not just people who are here, but who has registered for this masterclass. So everybody will get a chance to view the replay. Okay. All right. So maybe another couple of seconds, but I'm going to share my screen now and get going. All right. Okay. Okay. So for the third or the fourth time, welcome. Today we're going to talk about LinkedIn profiles, but also content, producing your own content and engaging with content of others. And I'm going to take a very conservative, very beginner approach to content, because it's really not something you have to be doing. So I'm going to introduce it in such a way that is very introductory and hopefully will dispel any fears that you have about doing it. So I'm going to show you how to begin to do it without feeling that you're doing anything that's too revealing or obnoxious or any of those things. All right. So if you remember the summary from when you signed up for this masterclass, you will learn to optimize your LinkedIn profile. And I will be covering the two purposes that you may have for being on LinkedIn, which is job search, networking, and how they interact with each other. So you may have both of these in mind, and that's perfectly fine. And having a great profile isn't all there is. LinkedIn is no longer just a database of resumes. It is a place where you can showcase your interests and be a little more interesting than you originally expected. You can become more involved than you had been planning on. So it's just a great place to be. And you can get as involved as you want. There's really no obligation to be super involved, but you definitely could step up the level of involvement that you have right now. And that's really what I'm hoping that you will take away with you, is just something extra that you can do on top of what you're already doing. So showing off your skills, obviously you can list them, you can describe them, but showing off your personality, that is definitely something that you need to add. There's additional things that you may have to do, but they don't have to be complicated. And finally, there's this term that exists out there, which is personal brand. I will actually not be using that term because I find that a lot of people react negatively to that. So I will explain it to you using other ways. I will use terms like skills and personality, reputation, and things like that. So in case you're confused by what the hell personal brand is and how it applies to you, just forget that term for a second. I will try to make this more intuitive than that. All righty. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Lana. I am a career strategist and coach with Two Steps Forward Consulting, which is my own company. And I work with mid-career professionals mostly, a little bit with new graduates, if these new graduates are also adults. So I don't work with people that are transitioning out of the workforce or just entering the workforce. I work with people who have very relevant, very normal, and sometimes problems that seem very complicated. So somewhere in the midst of your career. So I like to work with people that have already tried a bunch of things. So they come into me already with some thoughts and feelings, and they know what's working, what's not working. They may not know how to move forward, but they already have a lot of things to say to me. And so sometimes it gets very confusing. It got very confusing for me over the past 15 years. And it took me forever to dig myself out of that confusion that I got myself into. And so now I help people feel empowered. So get out of that place where they feel very confused and feel empowered to move forward, communicate their worth, because usually people underdo it. They don't quite comprehend how much they can actually do. So they tend to not apply for all the opportunities. And I do this through coaching one-on-one. I'm also setting up group coaching opportunities right now. And I do document and web services. And that I will show you a little bit at the end of how I do this. So I don't want to spend too much time actually looking into this right now. We're going to go straight into LinkedIn. So I develop career strategies, I coach, I review documents, I put together a portfolio websites, I do a lot of things. But today it's going to be all about LinkedIn profiles. I've rewritten entire LinkedIn profiles for people before, and I've noticed that there are some trends. So also from the event description, you will see, or you may remember that I will be going over the actual point of being on LinkedIn, your purpose of being there, tagline, image, banner, about section, skills list, then the actual bulk of your profile, which is the information on jobs, volunteering, where to put organizations, projects, languages, things like that. And then the content will be at the end. And obviously I will take questions at the end about anything that's not covered. But if you have the kind of question that you don't feel comfortable asking in front of everybody, you can reach out to me later. Or if you come up with a question later, I'm very happy to answer all the questions after the fact. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So the purpose of your profile, I think I already mentioned that you may be on LinkedIn to look for work because you know that other people have been filling out these profiles. And then as a result of that, they had been contacted by either recruiters or HR at a particular company, but somebody scouted them. So all they had to do is go there. Now, also there are jobs on LinkedIn that you can apply for. So basically somebody puts up a listing, you have to search for it, and then you follow the link to apply, either using their company portal that they've set up. They will give you a link and you just follow the instructions. Or sometimes you can even apply just by clicking, apply with your profile. So there's job search angle. And then the other one is networking. Networking is the kind of thing that you do it, you have to be proactive, you have to try to connect with people and meet people, because on your own, you have access to a very limited number of people. So you always got to be looking out for who else you can talk to, who you can mention something to. Maybe somebody becomes interested or impressed by you. What else? It's like all the extra stuff, all the hustling that you need to do in terms of just being social, just trying to find out the information, find out what's out there. Because if you just stay in your own little bubble, there's a limited amount of information that you have. And especially a time like this where everybody, post lockdowns, everybody still feels very isolated. The networking is not really done exclusively online anymore. There are some in-person opportunities that are popping up, but it's going to be a while before we'll recover and in-person events become as interesting and powerful and actually even exist in the same quantity that they existed before. So I really highly suggest that you try to meet people, not just connect with people that you know in person, like former coworkers, current coworkers, your boss, other people that you've met, but also be a little bit proactive and try to meet people that you just become interested in order to expand your network. And for a lot of people, these purposes exist all at the same time. So you can definitely do both on LinkedIn. And this is the power of it. The very first thing that I want to, I'm jumping into the elements right away, essentially. So the very first thing I want to target is the profile tagline, is how you introduce yourself. So before you think about like naturally people go there and they want to upload their picture. Then they want to just take their resume, copy it into all the jobs. And then by default, LinkedIn will set your profile tagline to the most recent job that you've had. So first and foremost, I got to tell you that you can overwrite that. You can actually go and edit that. And you don't have to be identifying with the exact title that you have right now. You can expand it just a little bit more and generalize it so that you can reclaim a little bit of your own identity. So you're no longer just an employee of some company, or most recently employee of some other company. Now you are your industry professional. Now you are some field specialist. Now you are a subject matter expert. And it is not obnoxious or somehow arrogant to do this. This is actually how you would describe yourself. If you met somebody at the party and they've never heard about your company, you probably would then drop the company name and say, I don't know, I'm a tax professional. So by that logic, you can introduce yourself to other people without clinging to the reputation that you're riding on, that the company brings. And of course, if you work for some large company that everybody recognizes, by all means, you want to say that you're an account manager at Adidas or something. Sure, I will have some kind of idea of what you're talking about. But you can also say, I'm an account manager for a sports company. Like if you generalize that, if you just take a step backwards. And my favorite words to use is something, something professional, something, something specialist, or something, something expert. You can be a toxics expert. You could be business analyst. That is a term everybody understands. You can be a project manager. You can be a construction project manager. Like start to generalize what you do to get away from the fact that somehow you're owned by this company and you associate with it so much, and try to regain a little bit of your own identity this way. So if somebody is interested how they can do it for themselves, you can contact me later. I can take a look at your profile and I can make a suggestion about exactly how you can take a step back. You could be a consultant architect, and maybe that is what your title has been recently, but maybe you're something else. So gotta get away from just letting LinkedIn define who you are by using your latest job title. Just keep in mind that you can change that. So these are some examples, and I will tell you when they're appropriate. So the first person is Christine. She's a manager of global payroll. Now, she's been doing that for so long that even if she went to a different company, she would still prefer to be a manager of global payroll. And that is something she's very comfortable with. So her title itself explains what she does. She doesn't have to change it too much. She also is a speaker. So if you're going to be multiple things and say, like, these are different aspects of what I do professionally, you can use this vertical line character, which is called a pipe on the keyboard. So the vertical separator. And you can be a manager of global payroll, you can be a payroll and HR speaker, and you can be a mentor. Again, you don't have to be all these things if this is not who you are. If you're not 2 or 3 things, if you just go to work, go home, you can describe a different part of your identity. You can be a coach, you can be a translator, you can be whatever it is that you additionally are that you really think that, like, this is a core part of my identity. It is not by any means unprofessional to mention that you do something else. So for example, Robin here is a mortgage specialist. Now, we're not saying where she's a mortgage specialist. And she actually, like, her actual title is a bit more convoluted than that. So I don't remember what her exact title was, but I couldn't understand it because I don't work in her industry. But in order for her to be able to network, you can just say, I'm a mortgage specialist, and everybody just gets it. And then if you have follow-up questions, then you can ask her, like, exactly what is it that you do? Because, if you have more information about that industry, you would be, curious, and that's a great conversation starter in itself. But additionally, Robin is an entrepreneur, and that's not something she wants to hide. Some people keep their personal projects separate from work. They don't want anybody to know. But Robin is very, very okay with the fact that she's an entrepreneur. Her and her husband, they upcycle furniture. And she's also involved in some volunteer projects for people that are relocating from some kind of negative personal situation into temporary housing, and she upcycles furniture for those purposes as well. So that's that. There's a little funny noise coming from somewhere. Please mute your mics. All right, and then Robin actually happens to have a little tagline that comes from her business. You don't have to have a tagline for life of what you do, but if you happen to have it from one of your projects, so she breathes new life into old processes and things. So she actually breathes new life into old furniture, but I generalized it for her, and we said old processes and things, and we tied it with the fact that she really likes to contribute to operations of whatever company, upgrade processes and things like that. So that actually gives you a really good idea about what kind of person Robin is. And finally, I want to show you an example of something that may not be appropriate for a working professional who is not an entrepreneur. So I run my own business. LANA MELNICHUK is me. I'm career strategist / coach. They don't allow the % character, so I had to put a slash in there. And I'm using that space to actually put in my help, insert my I help statement in there. So I help women take back control of their careers in 2 months or less through one-on-one coaching, document, and web services. And then I have my little tagline, girl, you deserve to feel happy at work. So you wouldn't be doing something like that because that's hard to understand. If you're a working professional, you're looking for to be employed by a company, they don't really need to see your I help statement. So that is probably not really appropriate. But if you're more like project-based and you have a lot of employment, maybe you consult a lot, or you just have like, you take contracts 1 year here, 1 year there, maybe what you do, what you specialize in can actually be described by the I help statement. So for people whose career is more like project-based, you could say that I help companies improve this and this, or do that and that, or revamp something. So yeah, this is possible for people that are a bit more entrepreneurial and they maintain a very strong identity about what they bring to the company. For everybody else, I would really recommend, if you're starting out, just generalize from your title out a little bit, kind of one level of abstract out. So become something professional, something expert, or something subject matter. What did it say? There's a specialist, expert, and professional. You could be project management professional, for example. Now this is the part that everybody actually starts with. And I want to make a couple of comments about your profile image. The very basic thing you can do is obviously take a selfie or dig up some nice picture that you already have. Somebody took of you, zoom in enough that people can see you. So the reason I'm showing you this using a large picture and a smaller picture is that all of the detail gets lost. When people go to your profile and they see you, obviously you can zoom out a bit, show a portion of your torso, maybe down to your waist, maybe even the whole body. But the thing is, when you are doing stuff, leaving comments, likes, like if you actually engage in things on LinkedIn, your picture there is shown as a tiny little thumbnail. So here's an example where the yellow arrow points to me. And this is me screenshotting, my screen, showing you the portion that is relevant and actually magnifying it. This was even smaller when it was in the Facebook feed. So people need to see your face. No matter how much you want to include like something else, just zoom in until they actually recommend that more than half of the circle is your face. For me, I think it's about half here. And I can see now that people barely see me in that bubble when I actually do anything on LinkedIn. Now, when you send connection requests, I think at first people also see that tiniest circle. So try to zoom in enough. And in terms of upgrading the image, you can go from cheap looking whatever selfie into a better lit selfie. If you have a better lit selfie, you can go to maybe a selfie taken by your friend's phone if the phone is better. If that is what you have right now, you can still upgrade it. Like taking pictures of yourself versus somebody taking picture of you, and then using a phone that may or may not, like the camera may not function. The front-facing camera, it doesn't have the same capability as the normal camera in the phone. So when you do a selfie, it never really turns out as good as when somebody else takes a picture of you. Try to take a couple of them in different places and then choose. Have a friend help you. Try to find somebody with a very modern phone, like maybe iPhone, I don't know what the latest one is now. There's like 11, 12, 13 type numbers now, because I'm not an iPhone user. But then if that's what you have right now, you can still upgrade that and you can get your picture taken by a photographer. I have a friend who takes photos for exactly this sort of purpose. He will even come to your place, or meet you somewhere if you have a place already in mind. He is mobile. He will bring backdrops, and you know, it's not very expensive. Honestly, you can get this done for about $100 if you're located in Toronto. If you're not here, I don't have access. I mean, I don't have a database of photographers everywhere. I think I have right now, I have 2 photographers in the Greater Toronto area that I know of, that I've seen their work. And then 1 photographer in London, because I work with people in the UK as well. And maybe you can help me. Maybe if you have a photographer that you've used before for these kind of portrait shots, maybe, and they're looking for clients, maybe you can send me their contact information and I will be very happy to add them to my list. But what I'm trying to say is that if whatever situation you have, you can always slightly upgrade your photo. Again, if you have doubts about how it comes off, ask somebody. You can just send me a quick message and say, Lana, can you look at my picture and tell me if this is like a completely horrendous, if this is giving me bad kind of first impressions, if this is giving other people bad first impressions of my profile, and I will be able to tell you that, you know, you may want to look into this. At the end of the day, it's probably fine as long as you have a photo, but just keep in mind that first impressions matter. And try to show a lot of your face, at the more than half probably. Don't worry about anything else. It's an online platform. We all need to have a little avatar with our face in it. And if people are really tripping over the fact that they can't see your shoulders or your stomach or, you know, whatever, like down to your hips, really, this is not what the purpose of LinkedIn is. So zoom in. The face is really all we see here in these bubbles. Okay, I'm going to go into profile banners now. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples. If you have never ever bothered to change the profile banner, you will notice that it's kind of grayish. The LinkedIn default is this kind of empty looking banner. You can change that. In fact, you should change that. It makes a lot of difference when you first go to somebody's profile and you see that they actually bother to put something there relevant to what they do, hopefully. So it's not just, I mean, if you really like some kind of sunset picture and you put that there, I would probably advise you to get rid of it and change it for something more relevant to your profession. Unless you have a very strong interest and some kind of hobby that actually functions as a part of your identity that is more relevant than just some random pretty picture. So in this case, here is one profile where the picture that is used makes you think about education, training, various things like that. So this person at the time when this profile was created was looking into being an educator and training other adults. Now, I have no trouble with pencils to represent that, because to me, that speaks to education, something interesting, you know, learning. That is an effective image. You don't have to overthink it. Now, the second one here I want to show you is the person took their name and the person took the exact same title that they're using below. So right below the picture, there's the first words that you will see is the name and the title. And she is using the same ones here. This banner was made using Canva, and I will show you how you can do that. But this is a template. She really didn't overdo this. She just went to a free tool, searched for LinkedIn banners, and change the default name to her name there. And this is already better than not having any. And if you really don't have anything clever to say, you can say this. You can just make it more obvious that, you know, this is what your title is. Just reiterate that. It's perfectly fine. And finally, if you really want to get a bit more complicated, if you have some kind of tagline, some kind of quote you like, here's a person that I was working with this woman in the past, and she had a word cloud that she prepared and she used it somewhere else on social media. So I got her to send me this word cloud and I helped her put together this image. She had a favorite color. We used this kind of navy blue color. This has evolved now, but at the time, this is what my parameters were to help her. And she also wanted to be able to work kind of like get it in people's mind immediately when they saw her profile that she wants to work with US companies or Canadian companies. And we represented that with flags. So you can use little symbols there. You probably would have to do just a little bit of planning for something like this, but this goes well with, like, this is very neat. This is very professional. There's two colors here at play. There's this golden yellow, kind of mustardy color, and there's blue. The flags represent the fact that she can work with those types of companies, and she's not an entrepreneur, she's a working professional. And then we use something that she already had and just combine a bunch of elements. Going back to Canva, if you really are interested in using Canva, Canva is an online free service. Unless you want to upgrade to Pro, you can easily just get the free version. You would just register, then go in there and look for LinkedIn banners. It already knows the format, the size that a LinkedIn banner is, because you can see here the LinkedIn banner. I actually don't know if this is exactly the size that it is, because every time I've tried to do this, I think LinkedIn is a bit more narrow now, but nonetheless, they get it pretty, like it's almost on the ball. I don't know if it's like slightly out of date with what LinkedIn actually uses right now, but the proportions are almost, let's just assume that they're almost correct. So you would do that. And then what would pop up if you chose that option with the 15 whatever pixels are all kinds of templates. And you would be then looking, like I highlighted this in red, you would be choosing one of the templates and just changing information to your own. So doing something like that already is a huge improvement over just uploading some picture, you know, and you simply could just put your name in it, and your name and your title being your actual title, your title being something a bit more generalized, you're something professional. It really doesn't have to be complicated. It's just about bothering to do certain things. There's a difference between profiles where people put in a little bit more effort than others. You immediately notice it. So that's kind of the main point that I'm trying to make here. Next one, we'll look at the profile statement, and that is actually your about section. That's what it functions as. Now, there are ways to write about sections that talk a lot about you. It takes a little bit of time. You would have to figure out what about you actually want to say. If you've ever written a bio for a different source, if that was ever required because you worked or studied at some place and they wanted to include you in their website or some kind of directory, maybe you already have that. You could use it here. What I would suggest is that if you have a profile statement on your resume, copy it into your about section. And that is probably the best thing that you can do. Now, your about section could sound something like this: motivated and resourceful project management professional with 10 years of experience managing multiple simultaneous high-paced projects with certain budgets, adaptable, tech-savvy, solid track record of utilizing strong planning, organization, and problem-solving skills to support teams, act as a point of contact for external shareholders and public. Now, this is line, word by word, character by character, line by line, taken out of her resume. We crafted that over some period of time. This is a professional project management resume. So again, you can see that she's a project management professional. That's how we generalized it to kind of describe what she does, as opposed to what she at some point did for some specific company. And yeah, if you have something that's already been written about you, especially if you worked really hard on your resume, just copy it into your about section. By all means, about section does not need to be empty. And that kind of is immediately obvious when somebody's being lazy about their profile, that they haven't filled out the about section. The about section is one of the things that you see because people read top down. So they see the image and the banner, then the title, then a little bit about like maybe your recent job or something, because there's some symbols that LinkedIn includes in that box, but then immediately down from that, you see the about statement. So if you haven't filled it out, you may want to fill it out. Anyhow, you need to fill it out. But then if you really wanted to improve it, try to look for something that's already been written about you. And if you're really struggling, let me know. I will be able to sit down and help you with that. Starting to stumble. Here we go. This is probably fairly advanced, but I want to show you this as well. In case you're wondering how some other people approach it. Why is it that some people put so much stuff in their about section? And first of all, you don't have to do that. But if you're interested, try to break things down, try to read their profile and try to see what they did. What was the structure that they used? Now, this is the one that I wrote for the mortgage professional. And LinkedIn usually shows about 3 lines of the about section before collapsing it. So I ended with more about me and the finger pointing down because the rest of the section actually gets collapsed up to that point. So we decided to do 3 topics and a call to action. So this person wants to she loves connecting with other people. She just loves it, loves it, loves it. She wants to meet new people. So this is what she says when she upcycles the furniture. This is what she says when she meets people outside of her circle in any circumstance. So we were trying to figure out what is it that she does. And actually, for her, it made sense to talk to a career professional to try to figure out if there are trends between what she does professionally and her entrepreneurial business, to see how we can describe it in a way that there's overlap, so she can use the same description for a lot of things. So what is it that makes it good for her to be those both things? What is it that ties them together? And that is something in her values and her personality. So building strong relationships works for a mortgage professional, works for an entrepreneur. Breathing your life into all processes and things. Well, I tied that together by saying processes and things, quite literally. And outside of the 9 to 5, now originally I called it building a home or something like that, but she decided to rename it because, you know, at the end, when I'm finished with somebody's profile, I hand it over to them and they have to make it their own. So I'm absolutely not against people changing what I've written. I mean, I'm just trying to guide people. So we decided to go for 3 topics plus call to action. And it actually is cut off here, but she put in even her email address, which by all means you do not have to do. You can just say, let's connect, DM me, or let's connect, send me a request, if that's what you want. If you're networking, it doesn't hurt to remind people that you're willing and able to network and connect. A lot of the times a call to action is it seems obvious, but you should still write that out. Let's connect, contact me about this, you know, something like that. Like tell them exactly, tell the reader exactly what you want them to do with your profile. Now that said, if you go back to the slide before, if you just write one paragraph about yourself, this is perfectly fine. I just wanted to show you that when people do put in the work, it can be better, it can be different, it can be longer, but this takes a little bit of work. If this is not for you, that's fine, this is not for you. All right, so enough about that, and let's talk about the skills list. If you had ever tried to fill out the skills list, you will notice that there are a lot of skills that you can put in. Now, I would recommend using all of them because when people like recruiters do a search, there are different types of LinkedIn. There's LinkedIn Premium, LinkedIn Navigator, and every new tier of LinkedIn costs more for the person who's using it, and it gives them more capability when they search for different people. So recruiters often use one of the higher tier ones because it has really good search capability. So they can look for candidates by very different criteria, by the city where you live, by your title, by the keywords in your title, but they definitely also look at the keywords that are the skills. So I would say try to fill them all out. If you're doing a little bit of thinking, think about what you may want to include. You have skills that make you qualified for the type of job that you're looking for. Those are your hard skills. You have skills that make it very pleasant and good, productive, just enjoyable to work with you. Like you're a good team player. Why? And these are the skills that make you good to work with, soft skills. And then you may have very specific software skills, like names of pieces of software or online tools or databases that you've used before. And if you really are struggling to put anything there, put in something software. If your software is not your strong point, but you just literally learned how to use Canva and you still have like one empty skill, put in Canva. I mean, it doesn't hurt. But I encourage people to try to fill out all 50. And then if you think of something better, you just remove the weaker ones and then replace them with something that you thought of that can replace them. Now, additionally, LinkedIn allows you to have endorsements. There's no benefit to having endorsements, I can tell you right now. So a bunch of your friends or former coworkers endorsed you for some kind of skill. Okay, LinkedIn keeps on encouraging people to click on, like, oh, for project management, you will go to person 1, 2, or 3, and then you click on it. Some of the times I know the person, but I don't know if I would go to them for that thing versus somebody else. So I would just randomly be clicking. I don't think there's value in having endorsements. So the reason I'm telling you this is that if you are in the skills section, you click on a pen and the screen on the right opens where you can reorder the skills and adjust endorsement settings. You can go to adjust endorsement settings and turn them off. If you look at the first screenshot on the left, the endorsement settings are turned off, and how much neater it actually looks to the reader now. right? So now it doesn't say that 51 people endorse you for some kind of dumb skill that like, data something like compiling data or processing. So like, no, just no. You have more control over your profile. Set the 3 top skills, which describe your 3 areas of specialty. So for me, it would be coaching, collaborative problem solving, and management consulting. That's what I wanted to have it say at that point. Now, at some other point in life, I would have to redo my LinkedIn profile. Maybe I would say something else. So you can adjust even your top 3 skills. You can do whatever you want with these 50. Be involved in this list. Turn off the endorsement settings so people can see your top 3 skills without any garbage there, and then see the rest of your skills. And LinkedIn will organize your skills into sections on its own. Every skill that you search and it gives you suggestions, you pick a skill, they have it already categorized. So you're not the one actually trying to create these categories. But I think it's much more important to be neat and easy. Like your profile should be neat and easy to understand. So when I'm reading this, I see that 3 top skills and then I see a bunch of other skills. To me, that logically makes sense. Okay, for the jobs. The very obvious thing you should do is make sure that there's parity, which means it's the same between your resume and LinkedIn. Now, if you have just adjusted your resume and dropped a bunch of kind of college level jobs or some irrelevant things that don't seem to fit in where your career is progressing anymore, they don't really provide any proof for any type of skill that fits within where you're trying to go, then adjust your LinkedIn to also drop them. Now, LinkedIn is a kind of place where you can have every single job you've ever had, and people probably won't even care because that section actually gets covered up by default. It just showed like the about and whatever, and then it shows you maybe a couple of jobs, and then you have to open up to see older jobs. So you actually have to make an effort to go to see somebody's older jobs, and somebody just may not open that up for you. But clean up your jobs, I would say. If it's really irrelevant, really old, really doesn't provide evidence for anything, get rid of it and try to create a little bit more parity between your resume and your LinkedIn. LinkedIn can include more things than your resume. Your resume is limited by either 1 page if you're doing a 1-pager or 2 pages if you're doing a 2-pager, and please do not do anything more than 2 pages. But LinkedIn technically can have a limited number of jobs. It just doesn't make sense to kind of waste your time to put in so many. Nobody's going to read every single job that you put there. People don't have that kind of attention span. But if you're just starting with LinkedIn and you don't know what's going on, think about, what would you do for the resume if you had, even if you're employed, what if you were to write a resume that accurately represents you and would apply to your, like something you can use to apply for your own job. Maybe you're not even thinking of looking for jobs, but something that backs up this, what you're doing at your own job currently. That's what your LinkedIn should look like. And again, fixing up LinkedIn doesn't mean you're looking for a job necessarily. It's just your online portal. It's your online presence. It's a place for people to figure out what you're about and contact you about something. People share knowledge. There's strength in numbers. I mean, you may need to talk to somebody about something, find out about different types of jobs way in advance of applying them, like cast the wide net and slowly build relationships. That's what LinkedIn is about. So cleaning up LinkedIn is still important, just like when they tell you to keep your resume up to date. The other types of stuff you can put there is volunteering. And here's a great example of somebody who volunteered for the Ronald McDonald House Charities in Toronto. And this is actually the format that I would support. In a job, you want to be like point form or short paragraph, just kind of describe your main purpose there, your main accomplishments. When it's a volunteering experience, I would actually describe that because you have a bit more space here. If somebody actually made it all the way down to the volunteer experience, they may actually be interested in something a bit more colorful. So use more colorful language. Here's like 2 examples of volunteer experiences in the same section. The bottom one uses point form, right? So I think that was a copy paste from a resume. But the one here for Ronald McDonald uses a different format. It says, a volunteer at Ronald McDonald House's family room program at Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. Then she describes what that is for somebody who doesn't know what this organization is. And then she says, my role involved doing these specific things. So this is just a bit more longer format. I do like that she describes exactly what the charity is and then describes what her contribution to that was. So if you want to be wordy, this is a fine format. And you can also use, if you really wanted to, you can use even something like this to explain your jobs. If you're convinced that nobody has heard of the company where you worked at, maybe it's from a different country or just smaller and you don't expect people to know, or you're pivoting, so people in your new field will not know what that is because it was from a different field, maybe it makes sense to put in 1 or 2 sentences explaining what the company does before you describe what you did there. So here, because of the subject matter, that this is a very important charity, like you start to get the feels when you read it, you become interested in this material, you actually want to know more about it. So that's actually a great place to be a little bit more wordy, give people, your readers becoming curious, give them something. And now for other things like organizations, projects, languages, and honors and awards. They are now grouped on LinkedIn into a section called accomplishments. So if you scroll down below everything that I've mentioned so far, you will be able to add any organizations you're part of, any projects, like if you're describing something you did that was pretty close to your heart, maybe for one specific client or one specific initiative. This is where you put your languages, and you may or may not have awards. Again, if you don't have some of this, that's perfectly fine. You either do or you don't. Like, you don't have to really wrap your brain around the fact that I have to somehow create that based on the limited stuff that I've done. Maybe what you did is just of different type. Maybe how you work is more described through jobs. Like, that's still perfectly fine. So I've expanded this. This is one person that actually filled out a bunch of organizations. And the approach that she took was to explain, she actually doesn't really say, she's a general member. She is not doing any kind of leadership activities. She's just showing up to events and participating in whatever a general member would participate. So she simply is explaining what the organization is. So all of this text here actually is more about explaining what the place was than explaining what she is doing for it. But except for the legacy here, legacy is women's group. So here it says what legacy women's group is, and also describes exactly what, this person is a VP. We already said vice president, but she wants to expand on that. In addition to being a VP, I contribute as a speaker, facilitator, I host events, and then we put in an Instagram. It's a small group. Oh, somebody is leaving. Bye. Bye, Maria. So you definitely can put as much as little information that you have. If you're a general member, there's not much to say. If you're claiming to be somebody in the position of leadership and you've made some decisions and you help to organize some stuff, please mention it. It's very, very great place to mention that. So in addition to that, I want to talk about projects, which was the second section. These are some specific things. They were done while this person was working, but it feels more like a project. I mean, it's not an organization she belongs to. It's like a self-contained project. It had a beginning, middle, and end, and she wanted to describe that she was, at least mention that she was a part of it, because now you are writing on somebody else's reputation. Now you want to say that, claim that you're part of a project, you enjoyed it, you contributed. So here, there's a description of, so her role was, in the first one, the Ceridian, which is a payroll system, project manager for the implementation of the global payroll solution. And then she gives some other description of the project. And then there's one thing that we did here. I helped with this profile. So one of the projects is being a payroll and HR speaker. And I had her look up all of the speeches that she gave, whether she gave them titles, when it took place, for whom, like one was for Toastmasters, one was for the Canadian Payroll Association that she was a part of in the previous screen. And some of the stuff is ongoing. Some of the stuff was a one-off, like she's hosting webinars, she's hosting something on the YouTube channel. You don't have to have an extensive contribution to some project, but you may still want to mention that you were part of it. So that kind of is up to you. If you really want to mention it, go ahead and mention it. If you have questions about how to do that exactly, whether it's worth mentioning, whether you really did contribute or whatever, send me a question later. Describe the situation, because it's really hard to generalize this. It may make sense to play that up for you because you are looking for a job, and people would recognize the project you were part of. And that's a great way to bring that into the conversation. That may be your agenda. It may be different. It may be something that you don't think is really a big deal, but it may be like from an outsider, for an outside perspective, like mine, I would say, whoa, that's really cool. You should definitely mention it. So it really helps sometimes to ask it. And that completes the portion about the elements that I wanted to say. If you really are part of something, do go ahead and mention it, you know? But I do want to talk about posting content a little bit, because a lot of people think that LinkedIn is just for doing your profile and then quietly waiting until life throws you a bone of some kind, until the recruiter finds you, until something. And then the only time you would engage with LinkedIn is if you go and use the job search function and apply for jobs. Now that's all great and all, and that's the bare minimum you should be doing. But there are other things that you can and should do. And yes, you should post content, but no, it doesn't have to be complicated. So one of the ways to do this, if you want to do it consistently and really want to show that you're about some cause or about some interest, is picking a number of themes, like 3 themes, do one post on one theme per month. So keep the theme consistent, post 1 or 2 times a week. That's only 4 posts on a certain subject. And then switch the subject for the next month and then switch it again. And then just cycle through that. That could be one way of doing it. So I wanted to show you guys an example of how this can be done. This is an exercise that I went through with one person, and her themes, like she comes from hospitality and events, her themes are creating experiences, sustainability, that's just her personal interest. She really cares about environmental sustainability in everything, really, personal products, company operations. And then she's interested in living in color. That's her, it's kind of like a personal motto. She believes that you should try to make the best out of every situation and experience, and she tries to live in color, quote unquote. So whatever that means to her. Again, that probably needs to be explained. So we went through the themes and we did a brainstorming session. So the first one was creating experiences. And she already gave me some notes on that, what that means to her. It's an experience of the user or customer, this human touch, aligning with brand or business objectives, which is kind of the personal angle. Also being positive. She loves some things about how she handled this before in the workplace, and she's producing unforgettable memories, which is something that she also loves. If she is a client or a guest somewhere, right? So she cares about it both ways. So we had to turn that into ideas for what the posts would be like. So we looked at, you know, what does creating experiences mean to me? Yeah, it's an intangible feeling, but then, you know, so she probably would have to have a post, maybe like a paragraph explaining that, just kind of just freestyle ramble. Could be just words, could be video, could be a picture attached. So 5 ideas, 5 experiences for virtual events to support local businesses. So she could produce a list of 5 things a business can do to include. So this feeds into sustainability as well. The kind of cool things that you can do virtually when you invite people to just participate through Zoom, like wine tasting is a good idea for a virtual event. So she said something about wine tasting. She could explain, do a post that wine tasting is for everybody, not just snobs. She can create a fairly, very simple, approachable experience for people, and they could all participate through Zoom, maybe by mailing them a basket and then all participating together. There's some stuff that she had seen, maybe share an article about that. There's an image that she remembers seeing, wine aroma wheel image. Also other experiences you can have that are very cool that she loves are chocolate making, pasta making, like food experiences. We made a note that Airbnb is now selling experiences when you can get like a tour of some big city by just paying and then getting the Zoom link to that and just watching the feed. All kinds of other things, how to create experiences for yourself, cooking healthy meals. Like we just brainstormed the shit out of it, you know? And then we moved to sustainability. So she already had been thinking about sustainability a lot, both business and personal products. So we tried to figure out what would you post on the topic of sustainability? Because you always have to think about what would a post look like if you made it on the topic. So you have here, what is environmental sustainability? It doesn't hurt to define whatever it is that you're thinking about. So it could be a definition. You could look it up anywhere in some article and just quote it. copy paste that paragraph as long as you say where it came from. Maybe share some sustainable events that she wants to go to that she found with the rest of the network. Define what sustainable hospitality is. Switching to virtual events decreases the footprint in the event industry, so she can approach it from different angles. And finally, living life in color. We also had to brainstorm exactly how you would show that you live in life in color. For example, gardening, very colorful. Your food has colors. It makes sense to do plates, show pictures of plates where you're cooking something with color, or just a picture from your garden. Minimalism is important to her. Actually defining what minimalism is, maybe sharing the definition of minimalism or like a paragraph about what it means to her. How else does she, love to express this? She said, eat rainbow colors. That's kind of the basis of it was. But then she's also a watercolor artist. She does a little bit of watercolor, and she can share a portfolio of her artwork. Anything with color that's a part of her life. Colors in nature, photography as a source of images, activities that are rainbow colors, anything, wearing something colorful, reading something colorful. So that kind of can be done through images mostly. So this could be anything as long as it makes sense to you. And if you somehow think that people don't care about this, how do you think people make up content? They just literally make it up. There's nobody there who is like a high level expert on things, maybe with the exception of some people that studied marketing or communications, but everybody else is just normal people on LinkedIn, sharing their lives, sharing their experiences. You don't have to go too personal. If you don't want to, you don't have to reveal anything actually like facts from your life. You may have seen lately on LinkedIn, people are talking about all kinds of touchy subjects. They're talking about mental health. They're talking about there's mental health awareness, suicide awareness, miscarriage awareness, all of these kind of things. They may not be the subject matter that you want to touch. Perfectly fine. You really don't have to. But if you want to start expressing your personality to make yourself look and feel like a real human being and who you really are, you need to start posting something from your interests. It could just be accomplishments, work accomplishments, but that makes LinkedIn a boring and kind of a competitive place to be. A lot of people have done a lot of work to try to humanize that we're not hiring a seat warmer. We're not hiring a typist. We're hiring a human being with their values and their decision making, so be a human. And it's not weird, trust me. Like, you can actually do it in such a minimal way that you won't feel like it's really revealing too much of yourself. Now, how this would look like is that you can share an image, a quote, some cool image that you found. If you really are struggling to begin, find a quote that's already been, created into a poster out on the internet. Share it. If it has a little message at the bottom about who created it, keep that, don't cut it out. It can be just as simple as one sentence. I was writing about, because, start something new because you can and should. This got a lot of likes. Doesn't mean it brought me clients, but this made a lot of people get to know me a little bit and feel good about themselves, right? So sometimes just a little message is all you need to do to practice posting. And here's one from Amal, who is a friend of mine, and she has taken the YouTube approach. So she works in the animation and visual effects industry, and she will find a cool video of something educational that's out there on YouTube, and she will share it. So here is famous actors audition tapes, which is kind of fun, right? So she just literally described what the video is and included the link to YouTube. So you could be sharing something that you care about, but somebody else created the content. You don't have to do everything. And then the second part of it is, how do you engage with other people's content? And if you just click like, that actually doesn't do very much. It makes me feel very good if somebody hits like. I can see like little bubble heads and I can see who's interested in my content. That's fantastic. But that's a bare minimum you can do. So first of all, if you're not doing anything right now, read your feed from people that are in your network. I don't know how big your network is, but there's probably somebody in it, and probably somebody's posting something. Click like on a couple of things. But the thing is, comments mean more. Comments are much more interesting in terms of engagement and networking. They let people know that you bothered, that you're human, that you have an opinion. This is the kind of stuff that is really, really nice. If I posted something and you came to comment, and please don't click on one of those pre-written default things like thanks for sharing, because I know that's what they are, right? Like it wasn't written by a human being. Say something from yourself, like say something like a normal person would. LinkedIn is not a job interview. It's just a bunch of people posting stuff and connecting. And this is where you want to be. You want to turn your job search from this thing where I'm just a little person and they hold all the power, whoever they are, right? The people who distribute jobs. You want to turn this into, I am just like everybody else. I have the right to exist and I have the right to look for meaningful work. I have the right to be interesting and I'm just connecting with other people, like person to person. But don't you always, haven't you always wanted it to be like that, to equalize things in terms of like who has power over whom? Instead have these, everybody always talks about like talk to people. It should be like a conversation in the elevator. You can get a job. It takes some confidence to be able to do that, to start to believe that you can even do that they're equal to you, to strike that kind of conversation. Well, there's a way to do that through LinkedIn, just by starting to appear a bit more human to other people, and they will take interest in you. So commenting, it actually does that. It will make you look like a very interesting person. And then also if you put out a post and somebody comments, reply to their post. Don't just thank them. Don't just click like a little like or heart on what they wrote. Continue the conversation. The more comments there are on your post, the higher your visibility will be, because LinkedIn likes engagement. LinkedIn is actually all about engagement. And then other people will start noticing you, will start commenting, will send you connection requests, right? So this is the part about just being alive, being active, using LinkedIn for what it was meant for. It's not a database of resumes anymore. And don't be afraid to do it. If you really like are just beginning, just hit likes on a couple of things, but try to build up to commenting. And finally, sending connection requests. If you just find somebody that you want to connect with, whatever your agenda is, maybe they work for the company that you also want to work for, maybe whatever, maybe they're a complete stranger. Whatever your motivation is, I don't know. But if you just click connect, great. You've mastered how to send a connection request. But that box that pops up that says, do you want to attach a message? You actually should use that box if you have time. You should start to feel comfortable, more confident using that box. And by no means you should ever say, oh, came across your profile, is great. Let's connect and add value to each other's network. That's complete BS. That is what people say when they don't know what to say. It is the most boring thing you can say to a person, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't give that person anything to strike a conversation with you. Like, it doesn't break the ice. It's just like this really stiff, awkward, way of trying to connect with somebody. It's like tapping somebody on the shoulder and saying, hello? Like, it doesn't do anything, right? So there are two things that you can do. Is you can mention something from the profile when you send a connection request, or you can mention something from one of the posts. If you really found out about this person while reading comments, or they liked something and you became curious, you clicked on their little bubble head and then you went and opened the profile, mention something from what they just did or what they wrote. It actually acknowledges that they, did a good job creating their own profile. It feels good when somebody mentions something, because it means they give a damn. They went and read what you had to say or what they had to say, whoever is reading who. So one example I have here is, hi, whatever their name is. And this is Canada. We don't say hi, Mrs. Melnichuk, or hi, Miss Melnichuk. We just don't. Just say hi, Lana. That's perfectly fine. It's very acceptable. Maybe I work in taxes in Toronto and they also do, and they want to connect with me. And they say, hey, I also work in taxes and I'm also from Toronto. I'd love to connect with you. That gives me a little bit of something now, that now I can connect with them and maybe say something back, because I can see that they're actually a real person. They didn't copy paste their message. It gives me something, like it's way better than just not giving anything or some kind of a lame little boring message. And the second one I have is, if you found out about this person through a post and you liked how they commented on something, or maybe the post itself, you like that they wrote the post, or you like that somebody else commented on somebody else's post, and you found that, oh, that's clever. I think the same thing, and I want to connect with this person, right? So then you would say that. You would say that I really enjoyed your post yesterday about mental health at work. I'd love to connect and see more of your posts. That already is something that tells me that you care about mental health at work. And then it doesn't mean that you actually have to comment on something and engage in the topic of mental health at work. It could have been something else. Like, hi, I thought this was really cool that you did that. People love that. People love to be acknowledged. You know, wouldn't it feel nice if you did something and somebody came and said, I noticed it. I noticed that you did that thing. And I'm also interested. And now you just have a conversation between two people that care about something. It is extremely important that you give them a little bit, just a little bit to go on. So they're more compelled to approve your request. Because otherwise people send requests, they're absolutely meaningless. Now I have to go to their profile, try to figure out what they're about. I have no idea why they even wanted to connect with me because I don't see anything in common. So I'm not gonna approve. If you really are looking for work, resist the temptation to be like, hi, do you guys have jobs? Can you pass my resume to somebody? That is lame, that is obvious. That is not something you should do. Treat them as a human being first, talk to them, show them a little bit of respect, be interested in them. People want that. That's a great icebreaker. Then at some point, you know, you start chatting maybe back and forth, and then you say, hey, you know, I kind of want to ask you. And then you ask. Don't put that in your connection request. Don't hit a person with a message immediately after you've connected. Hi, got jobs? Because they'll be like, go to hell. Like, why are you talking to me like that? That is, you know, so you don't care about me. You can't even be civil. You can't say something to me to start a conversation. Just try to be human. Don't treat people as a service. They don't owe you anything. Establish just a little bit of a relationship. Humanize this relationship. Then ask, right? Then it will become much more appropriate. When they see you and they understand what your situation is, then they're much more likely to actually do something for you, or at the very least, talk to you and share information about how you could go about it. All right, we have a, thank you. Oh, somebody has to bail. So I'm wrapping this up now. And if you have to bail, you will get the replay. I'm just going to plow through the rest of the slides really, really fast. So I already mentioned that LinkedIn has job postings, and you can apply directly on LinkedIn to them, sometimes even just one button, apply with your profile. And in the replay, you will see that there's a video that I actually quite enjoy watching, so you could learn specifically about applying for works on LinkedIn. Now, applying for a job, it's a package deal. Resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, networking. You know, if you can do all of them, spread your efforts. Obviously, you need the resume. Obviously, if somebody just told you that, yeah, okay, apply, use the specific process. We have it all already standardized. Use the resume only. Yeah, right. Then you have to do exactly what they tell you to apply for that specific job. But if you're planning ahead and you want to open as many doors as you can, because you're hoping that in the next year or two, something better comes through, try to do a bit of everything. Try to fix up your LinkedIn, make it more powerful, network, and be a human being about it. You know, like be nicer, engage in conversations, make that small talk. It really helps. And there are other resources that I've put together, and they are on resumes. I have my replay from my masterclass from resume optimization, and then the one I recently did on experience-based resumes. You're in this one, LinkedIn profile masterclass. I shortened it. Then there is building a personal brand on LinkedIn from Think Natalia, which I think is very good if you decide to watch it. And I'm planning a networking masterclass, which says end of December, but I will see whether I can actually make it work end of December, or it's going to have to be in January. And that one talks about networking specifically, who to connect with, how to introduce yourself, how to start a conversation, how to ask for a call, and what to say during a call. So it's a very specific technical talk. And then finally, if you're looking for expert help, you should be asking yourself this question. So you're somewhere and you want to be somewhere else. If you figured out your point, you know, your point, your X and your Y, the starting point and end point, you need professional services. You may need somebody to help you with the resume, with the LinkedIn. So this is something very specific, project-based help that you need. But if you find yourself in situation B, you are somewhere and you want to be, you don't quite know where, you probably need to talk this out with a coach. I really, truly believe in coaching. I have coaches myself. I have a marketing coach. I have a mental health coach. I could not be performing at the level that I'm performing if I wasn't getting help. So consider that. You may need to invest in yourself and get some help if you really want to improve your chances of getting to where you want to go. And in case B, to actually figure out what your options are. So I do free consultations. Anybody who is interested in getting me on video, I can do phone as well if that's what you prefer. I will talk to you. I will answer your questions. I love doing that. If you don't want to do that, find me on LinkedIn. My name is LANA MELNICHUK, and that's where I am on LinkedIn. You can find me by my name. You will recognize the picture. That's me. Send me a connection request. Say you met me in the masterclass. See, now we have something in common. Now I want to know what you have to say, because I understand the situation. You know, you listen to my material, you have a question, or you just want to be connected, just in case for the future. That's also perfectly valid. So reach out if you have any questions. You may not have questions now, but you may have them later. And I definitely do free consultations where, just as one human being to another, we will talk to each other and figure out where you're at. It's not about trying to sell you anything. Absolutely not. I don't believe in that at all. However, I will mention my services. If that's something you need to kind of think ahead and you are ready to invest in yourself and you actually are looking for specifics, I do LinkedIn reviews, which is a detailed Zoom recorded call where right in front of you, I review and give suggestions. I can do that for a resume as well. It's fairly affordable. I can do a rewrite, either a complete LinkedIn overhaul or a complete resume rewrite. Those services are also available. These are more traditional services that a career coach would provide in terms of like project services. And finally, I have an actual strategy package, which is a coaching package. It is for people who can't quite clean up their thinking. You know, they're lost, they're confused, they have too many options, or they don't think they have options, where they are not moving forward. Time is passing, they don't want to be where they're at, but they need help. And my package is structured in a way that there's coaching, then there are projects we do together. You get the strategy, which is a list of things you could be doing, and we pick a couple of them that are most urgent, we do them together. And then there's also a secret follow-up service as well, if you get to that point. But this can be customized. The way it's written right now, this is the full package. If you think you need some help, you just need like, you don't want this, you just want like a 1 power session to brainstorm something with me, I can organize, I can create a quote for you, I can put together something just for you. It's all possible. It's just, you know, you need to think about what you want to do. Or you can do a consultation and we can figure out what might be in your budget that may be useful to you right now, as opposed to investment into the future. And so finally, I would love to connect. You know, my email is here, my LinkedIn is here, my Instagram is here. However you want to follow me, I will follow you too. And please reach out anytime you think you need some advice. Lately, I've found myself in some situations where I didn't know what to do, both with my business and personal life. I reached out to people and it helped immensely. I cannot even describe how much more relieved I am, because after all, we're all human. I am human. I have an area of expertise where I can help anybody else, but sometimes, you know, you can't do everything for yourself because you're inside your head. So you really need to reach out and hear a different person's perspective. Sometimes you need to hear many different people's perspective. If you really need that, you can get a second opinion, third opinion, whatever you want, you know, but you need to start reaching out to people. You need to start putting yourself out there, getting help, giving help, engaging with things. Just be a part of a community. Community has a lot to offer. So be a part of the community and the community will take care of you. So guys, this is it. This is what I have to say for today. I've recorded everything. There's going to be a replay. And I know that a couple of people have already bailed, but I'm very glad that you all came to see me speak. I really love doing masterclasses. I honestly love doing masterclasses. I love teaching. I love consulting and I love coaching. And if there's anything else that I can do, I will be very happy to talk to you. This is literally how my life works. I love to help people. The replay will be made available. Everybody who registered, I have your emails, so I will send you the replay. So don't you worry, you haven't missed anything. If you also want me to send you some specific links, you don't want to pause the replay and type something up, I can send it to you through direct message or through email, just request it. So whatever it is that you guys want to request, just request it. I have other replays as well, resume related replays, career strategy related replays, all kinds of things. Yeah, so that's it. I know we've gone a little bit over time. That's why people bailed, but if you stayed this long, I really appreciate it. And thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Hi. You can safely bail now. And I will check the feed for LinkedIn profiles if somebody wants to connect. Bye, guys. Bye, Lana.